Hi, I'm Larry London. Welcome to Border Crossings. Today we are joined by veteran folk artist Joel Rafael. Joel's newest album, Rose Avenue, is his 10th. He says this album, like most of his previous, is a true life reflection of his life, now in its 7th decade. Joel Rafael has always included a message of social change, and songs are taken from the headlines. This album is no different. Performing since 1974, Joel was signed by music legend Jackson Browne on his Inside Recordings label. Today, we welcome singer-songwriter Joel Rafael to Border Crossings. Hi, I'm Larry London. Welcome to Border Crossings. And today in our studios, we're joined by a singer-songwriter from California who's been at it for about 50 years now. And he's got quite an interesting story about his very long and successful journey. We welcome Joel Rafael to Washington, D.C. and to the Voice of America. It's nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And congratulations on your 10th album.
My 10th album, yeah.
Which is pretty amazing. Now, it's been about 4 years since the last album, so what took so long?
Well, I'm not the most prolific writer in the world. I take a little care with my songs, and you know, I'm busy with other parts of my life. You know, I have a family and a couple of acres down in North San Diego County that I spend time taking care of. So, you know, I don't spend every moment writing songs.
Well, you know, I mean, I was reading a lot about you, and I guess some could say you're kind of a bad boy in music. You have been very outspoken, politically active, and you're probably the first artist that we've ever had on the show that was kicked out of a state. That was told you can't go, you can't live in Oregon.
I guess I can't get rid of that story. You know, it was a long time ago, but you know,
it's going to stay with you.
Ironically, what I was arrested for in Portland, Oregon, is now legal there. So it's like it's kind of a, you know,
now you can move back.
Yeah, well, I think I could move back, but you know, they still have me written down in the roll books there. You know, so
one of the other things that I read about you is that you are an avocado farmer, which might be the way that you kind of connected with another avocado farmer who's in music, Jason Mraz.
Well, I live in an area that is famous for growing a lot of avocados, North San Diego County. And Jason lives there, too. I was an avocado farmer at one time. When I first moved to that area, I lived on my mother's property for a while. That, you know, she was trying to hold on to the property. She said, you guys can move on to that property and help me take care of it. And so we became avocado farmers for a 10-acre avocado orchard for a number of years. And but now we live on a different piece of property, and we do have some avocado trees, but I'm not really an avocado farmer anymore.
But you're an aficionado. I mean, if there's an avocado question,
I know
call
about
Joel
it.
Rafael.
Yeah, I do know about avocados. And Jason is an avocado farmer. He's got Mraz Family Farms, which is a pretty cool enterprise. They're growing coffee and avocados.
And he's originally from, I think, Virginia, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
and he
he's
just
from
took a
Richmond.
vacation to San Diego, and he never came back.
Yeah, I think that's the story on him. He took a trip, and he just never came back. Everything he started, he got distracted from until he ended up being a songwriter. So.
And before we started the interview, you were talking about working with Jason. I know you've got a collaboration, the two you recorded together.
Yeah, we actually have two collaborations on the new recording. The one that I think you're referring to is Strong, and that's a song that we originally wrote for the water protectors at Standing Rock in North Dakota. And when I began recording this album, which of course was a few years later, I thought of that song, and I realized that it's not just about the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and their fight against the DAPL pipeline, but it's really about clean water, because we all need clean water. It's really an issue of humanity, and so that's why I put it on the album. And then.
And so you and Jason are good friends, and
We've become good friends. Yeah, we've known about each other for a long time, and in 2016 we actually had the opportunity to really get to know each other as friends and start to write some songs together. So we have two co-writes right now.
And so who's next on your list? Hopefully Ed Sheeran. He'd be another great singer-songwriter to collaborate with.
There are some great ones out there, and you know, like I've been pretty lucky in terms of collaboration. I mostly write as a solo writer, but my collaborations are with Jason Mraz, Woody Guthrie, Jack Tempchin, who of course is the Eagles songwriter,
Sure,
and John Trudell. So those are the four people I've written songs with.
Not a bad,
So it's
not a bad track record.
not too bad not too bad a company to be in, you know.
Well, we've got Joel Rafael in our studios, and he's on tour right now for a new album, which is Rose Avenue. So if you wouldn't mind doing a song for us, we'd love to hear something.
Absolutely. This is a song that it was probably the second song I wrote for the album. So I wrote it about 3 years ago, and it's based on the story of Emmett Till. But what I tried to do in the song is give some respect to his death and the impact that it had, you know, as really the cornerstone of the civil rights movement. And, of course, being here in Washington, D.C., which is where Rosa Parks spent the last years of her life, you know, it recalls the fact that when she would not give up her seat on the bus, she said she thought about that 14-year-old boy and what they did to him down in Mississippi. And so this song is called Glory Bound. I went down to Money Town, a place I'd never been. It's the place my family's from, and a place we still have kin. I'm not sure just how I knew that I had to go down south to Money Town, where cotton fields still grow. And I never knew when I came down that they'd take me down in Money Town. You can lay your money down, I am glory bound. I come from the city streets north of here by train, and it's 2 days down to Money Town in the sun and wind and rain. My family tried to warn me I was just 14, and on my big adventure to a place I'd never seen. And I never knew when I came down that they'd take me down in Money Town. You can lay your money down, I am glory bound. What you think don't matter much if words don't leave your mouth. When Jim Crow is still the law down here in the South, they lynched me down in Money Town. I was just a kid, and guiltier than hell, they never paid for what they did. And I never knew when I came down that they'd take me down in Money Town. You can lay your money down, I am glory bound. You can lay your money down, I am glory bound.
All right, Joel Rafael, sounding great.
Thank you.
I love your sound. And, you know, in fact, when I listened to your album, it brought back memories to me of some of the great singer-songwriters. You know, I heard Jim Croce in your voice and your style. I heard Harry Chapin in your style and your voice. And it brought back memories to me because you started in 1974. I guess that's
well,
when you
that's
put
when
out your...
that's when I started really pursuing a professional career. I started playing music way earlier than that.
What was it that got you into music?
You know, I was lucky. When I grew up in California, the school system there at the time was pretty high in terms of, you know, the quality of education. that one received in the public school system, and they had excellent band program, excellent art programs and band programs. And when I was in the 4th grade, they came around to the classrooms and asked if anybody wanted to be in the band. And I raised my hand immediately because I already had a love of music from my parents' record collection. And that actually were records that weren't the same records my friends were listening to, because my parents were, maybe a decade older than most of my friends' parents. So I was listening to big band music and singers like Ella Fitzgerald and Lena Horne and the Sinatra stuff, and Benny Goodman.
Wow.
So my first musical influences were very different than many of my contemporaries.
And you played the drums.
Yeah, and I picked out the drums, much to my parents' dismay.
Right,
but,
and the neighbors.
And the neighbors, yeah. But that eventually morphed into a couple of small groups. I had a little jazz combo when I was still in elementary school. My mother would go pick everybody up and bring them over to our house. And then when I got into high school, I became part of a garage surf band, because surf music was very popular, and I was the drummer, and I became a singing drummer. So that's kind of, then when folk music started being played on the radio a little bit in the 60s, I was motivated to get a guitar, because it was really hard to sing from the drums, especially if you didn't have the rest of the band members there. So, I talked my parents into taking me down to Tijuana, which was about a 2-hour drive from our home, and looking around and finding a cheap guitar down there, which was my first instrument.
And you sold a rifle to get a good guitar.
Well, yeah, you know the whole story.
I know your story,
yeah,
Joel.
I had that guitar. I learned how to play on it. It was pretty hard to play, but when I was, I guess, about 15, my dad decided he was going to take us on a trip to Hawaii. Because it had recently become a state, and he was in a position to be able to do that. So when we went there, we went to 3 different islands, and the third island that we went to was Kauai. So we got there and we checked into the hotel, and immediately got a message from somebody else who had checked in there, a guy named Jack Lewis, who had been a former stuntman and a Marine, had been in the Marine Corps, and also was partners in a gun magazine. And he was there to take pictures of a high-powered hunting rifle with a telescopic sight on it. So when we went down, he invited my parents down to have a drink in the bar at the hotel there, and we went down to meet him. And he was very glib, and he told us his whole story, about how he had been a stuntman in South Pacific, and they'd shot it there in Kauai and whatnot. And then he looked at my brother and he said, "Tomorrow I'm going in a helicopter to take pictures of this rifle for my magazine. Would you like to go with me, kid?" And my brother said, "No." And so then he looked at me. I was like the next, my brother was the oldest. He looked at me. He goes, "Well, how about you, kid? Would you like to go?" And I go, "Yeah, I want to go." And my dad goes, "He can't go. He's too young." And so between Jack and myself, we convinced my dad to let me go. And the next morning, we met this guy down at a helicopter pad near the hotel, and we flew into these uncharted areas of Kauai. It's an experience I'll never forget, because it's just absolutely beautiful.
Paradise.
Yeah, and 100-foot waterfalls. I mean, just stuff you just can't believe you're looking at it. And on the way back, he said, "How do you like this gun, kid?" This is a big rifle. It was a .38 caliber rifle.
Wrong question to ask a kid.
And I know, but I was just a kid, so
That's right.
I said, "I love it. I love that gun."
That's right.
And so he says, "It's yours." So we got out of the helicopter, and we're walking back, and I'm carrying this rifle, and my dad, who was very anti-gun,
where did you take my
what
son?
are you doing, And somehow, I don't even remember the conversation, but this guy talked my dad into letting us keep it, maybe, one of my dad's employees used to hunt, so I thought, well, I could go hunting with him, We brought it home, stuck it in a closet, and, of course, that's where it stayed until I ran into a school pal of mine, after school started in that summer. In the fall, we went back to school, and he mentioned about hunting with his dad a lot. And I told him about this rifle, and so he came over to look at it. Next thing I know, I'd sold it to him for $125.
A lot of money at that time.
That was. I ran down to the Covina music store in the town that I lived in, and I bought my first good guitar, a Goya G10, Swedish-made Goya G10 nylon string. And that's how it all started, with a guitar.
Wow. What I always enjoy most about talking to people who've experienced what you've experienced and been in the business for as long as you have is all the great stories. And you have worked with, Bonnie Raitt and Arlo Guthrie, Woody Guthrie, all these people that you've worked with over the years. I'm sure there's a lot of stories. Is there a book? Do you have a book out, or are you thinking of making a book?
A lot of these stories are not just my stories; they're my family stories, and my wife and I have a lot of these stories we share. So we've talked about a book, and we're kind of working on it, but we haven't quite gotten there yet.
Because you've lived through some interesting times.
Yes.
And for a songwriter, I don't think there's more of an interesting time than right now. I mean, you've got news headlines every day that for someone like you who likes to write about current affairs and things that are of social consciousness. I mean, you've got it going on right now.
Something that's a little different about the way I write, though, is like the American concept is like right now, everything I want right now. So like a movie or something that happens in current events, they make these TV movies, immediately, and I just think sometimes you need a little time after an event happens to kind of, let it kind of simmer down and you get a better view on it. And so a lot of my songs aren't written immediately after something that, that may move me to write about. Sometimes I'll be thinking about it for a while before I actually get the pen out and put it to the paper.
Gotcha. Now, the new album is Rose Avenue. Is there an actual Rose Avenue somewhere
There
that
is.
inspired
In fact, there's a lot of Rose Avenues, a lot
Right.
of places, but this particular Rose Avenue is in Venice Beach, California. It's
Okay.
right on the border of Santa Monica and Venice Beach.
Sure.
And there's a place that I found to stay while I was in Santa Monica making the recording. That was just a block from the beach on Rose Avenue. And about halfway through the recording, I just decided, well, this would be a really good title for the album. I think I'll just call it Rose Avenue.
Isn't there like Muscle Beach is right near there?
Yeah, it's right near Muscle Beach.
Yeah.
And Venice is notorious. A lot of people from other places that haven't been to California and want to go to the beach, that's where they go.
Right.
Because that's what they've heard about. There's tons of great beaches in Southern California.
Right.
But
I lived in
Venice-
Calabasas. I
Oh,
loved
yeah,
I
up in
loved
the valley
California.
there. Yeah.
Beautiful place.
I love California, too.
Very inspirational for writing songs
I think
and
so.
for singers and songwriters
Yeah.
like yourself. Now, the new album has, they're all originals except for one cover.
Right.
You did a Dion song, Abraham,
Right.
Martin, and John.
It was a Dion cover, actually, because it was written by a guy named Richard Holler.
Right.
Yeah. But, Dion had the first recording of that song. And I think it's a really important song. Especially in the context of today's news,
Sure.
when we're really seeking leaders that are honest and charismatic and can take us to the right places. And I've always wanted to record that song. It's one of those songs that you'd think would be a classic, but it really hasn't lasted through time. Most people that hear it today that weren't around back at that time, younger folks, they don't recognize the song, and sometimes even ask me, what is it about? But I think it's a song that's very current for today's times.
Right.
And I was lucky to get Eliza Gilkison to sing it with me.
So you're going to do a song for us right now.
I am. I'm going to do a second co-write that with Jason Mraz.
Okay.
That's on the album. It's a song right towards the end of the album. I had one more song to write, and I had a start on it. And Jason said, are you done with the album? I said, no, I got this one more song. I'm trying to figure it out. And he said, well, maybe I can help you with that. And I said, that would be really great. So, he travels a lot, so he was out on tour almost immediately. But by email, we ended up writing this song. I sent him a little snippet of what I had, and he sent me back some words and a bridge. And before you know it, we had this song called Under Our Skin.
All right. Joel Rafael.
I wanna walk a mile in my neighbor's shoes. I'd like to make you smile when you got the blues. You don't look like me, and I don't talk like you. No matter where we're from or where we've been, we are the same underneath our skin. I wanna harmonize with our voices and still be free to make my own damn choices. I don't talk like you, and you don't look like me. No matter where we're from or where we've been, we are the same underneath our skin. Under our skin, we are blood and we are muscle. Under our skin, we are human and we all hunger. Under our skin, we are one, and we all wonder. Under our skin, we are sisters, and we are brothers. If you look within at my skeleton, do you think you'll see the color of my skin? If you look into my eyes, you'll know me by my heart. You'll see that I'm a light in the dark. We're all born naked into this place, each one a part of the human race. We all laugh the same, we all cry the same, no matter what we dream or what we believe in. We are the same underneath our skin. Under our skin, we are blood and we are muscle. Under our skin, we are human and we all hunger. Under our skin, we are one, and we all wonder. Under our skin, we are sisters, and we are brothers. Under our skin. Under our skin.
Yes. Joel Rafael, right here on the Voice of America. I noticed your fingernails. You did something to your fingernails.
Well, a
Are
lot
those
of
song lyrics or what? What do you got
yeah,
on there?
I've got my cheat sheet on my fingernails here, and I look down and a lot of guitar players put acrylic nails on their fingers if they use their fingers a lot to play. And I just decided a couple of years ago to have a little fun with it. So I put some musical symbols on there and a peace sign and just some things that I like, just to kind of have a little fun.
Oh, that is cool. That's cool. Well, I love the new CD. I love your sound. And
Thank you.
There was a time you recorded a song with your daughter, Jamaica. I mean, is that possibly going to happen again? Are you going to bring her?
It could. My daughter and I played in a band together for 10 years, when she was in and just out of college. And, most bands last about 10 years.
That's the shelf life?
I think it is, yeah, for most bands. Some bands make it longer, but we had a pretty good run, and it was right at the beginning of the alternative formats in radio, like AAA and just before Americana, which initially kind of had our name written all over it, but, it changed, Americana is kind of a word that describes a lot of things, not just music. And so, it just sort of ran its course, and then she got busy, raising a family, and the other members of the band got busy doing what they wanted to do, and I just carried on.
And you kept on going, like an Energizer Bunny. You haven't stopped. 10 albums in. Wow. And you've been able to change and adapt to the changes in the business, because when you started in the 70s, it was very different than it is today. Today, it's very technology-oriented, and you have to adapt to that.
Yeah, that's kind of a fun adaptation for me. I've had fun, getting into the digital world a bit. I have a little home studio. Actually, I recorded my previous album there, Baladista, was recorded in my studio, totally, in a very small little space. And, I'm very proud of that record too. But I just decided this time I was going to work with somebody else, get out of my comfort box a little bit. But everything we're doing is digital, and there's this whole sort of inclination to try to warm it up, and adding analog to it and all that stuff. And I think all that stuff's relevant. I really love the technology.
And self-produced, right? I mean,
this last record, Rose Avenue, is produced by myself and Marty Rifkin, who played a lot of the instruments on the album. It's really just three musicians on that record.
Wow.
So it's myself and then Marty Rifkin, who, I do what I do. You see it right here. And then Marty played bass, pedal steel, lap steel, dobro, and I think mandolin on the record. And then we had a drummer, Ito Tancredi.
Do you still play the drums? Can you do that?
I do still play the drums, not professionally, but I have a drum set up in my studio, and from time to time I go in there and
get the aggressions out. And
yeah, it's just more like to see if I could still do it. Like people talk about multitasking. They say, "Oh, this person's good at multitasking." Well, I say they're just good at being a drummer. Being a good multitasker is just being a good drummer.
It takes a lot of work to be a good drummer too.
Yeah, it really does.
Now you have a connection to Jackson Browne. Is that still on today? Is he?
Well, this recording and my last several recordings have been released on Jackson Browne's label, Inside Recordings, that he started with his management team, and he was kind enough to allow me to release my my album Hopper and I think it was in 2000 on Inside, and that was actually before he was on the label because he still had a couple records to make for Elektra, and so I was a bit of a placeholder. You might say, along with John Trudell. So I was very proud of that association as well. So we were the two artists on Inside Recordings before Jackson actually started releasing his records there as well.
So looking back at your 50-year career, what is your fondest memory?
Oh my God!
The highlight. I know. Well, you got to pick one if you're going to write about it in your book.
Yeah. Well, does it have to be my fondest memory?
Well, it can be your least fondest memory,
too. It can't be my least fondest memory. Oh, it could be my least fondest. Yeah, I could probably come up with that a little easier, actually. But I don't know if there's a fondest memory. I've had some real high points. Like in 2012, I had the opportunity to come here to Washington, D.C. and perform at the Kennedy Center for the Woody Guthrie Centennial concert. And I like to say it was a who's who and who's that of folk music. And I was the who's that. But I was on the show. and it was, that's just such a wonderful venue. So, that was definitely a highlight. And a couple of years ago, I guess about 3 years ago initially, after John Trudell passed away, a great spoken word artist, also an associate of Jackson's that I had known for a long time. We were good friends. When he passed away, his band asked me if I would carry on and stand in for John and do his parts with Bad Dog, his band. Wow. And I really had to think that over because that's a high mantle and a lot of words. And so I did that for 2 years though. Basically stood in for my friend John Trudell with his band to keep his music alive, and we'll probably do that some more. But that was a real highlight in my career. It was a real stretching of myself and my abilities, and I think a real growing experience because working with John's material, I think, expanded me as a writer, as did working with Woody Guthrie's material.
Sure.
I think even working with Jason too. Anybody that you work with, anybody you kind of encounter in music, there's something to be gained there.
And I must say, it's got to be a highlight to be in your 70s and still do something you love doing.
Hey, I'm 70.
You're in your 70s.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm in my 70s.
The infancy of your 70s.
Yeah, that's true. It's really a good feeling to put out this album, recorded in my 70th year and recorded and released in the year when I turned 70. Because actually, when I was 69 was my 70th year. But that's always,
that's a song title right there.
It's kind of like I Am My Own Grandpa, right? One of those ones. Old Mo Jaffe song from the 30s. But, I've lost my train of thought there.
No, you're enjoying what you're doing. And
I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And to be 70 and to have an album like this that I'm very proud of, I think it's my best work.
Great.
That feels really good, because when I started in this music game, I didn't think I'd ever be 70. The good die young is not a concept that's in my reality at this point. So.
And time must fly by, right? I mean, I'm sure people look at 10 albums, 50-year career, whatnot. It doesn't seem like that to you, does it? I mean, it's probably gone by so fast.
It goes by really fast, and there's always, it's sort of like you always feel like you're beginning. It's like everything's a new beginning all the time. So there's a certain amount of questioning of like how you're approaching things, and like am I keeping my guitar chops up, and all this kind of stuff. Even after playing for 50 years, you still think about that stuff. At least I do. Because I want to try to be as close to the top of my game as I can.
Sure.
For as long as I can.
Right. One artist I once had on said the key to being successful is to stay relevant. And I think you do that with your songwriting, with your style, and as I say, your music is in a perfect place right now because the time is right for singer-songwriters, guitar-based artists, and that's tremendous because we lost it for a little while.
Yeah.
But we've got Joel Rafael here, and you're going to do one more song for us?
Yeah, I'm going to do one more song for you. It's a song that I wrote. I actually found a Associated Press article about 1987 about 18 undocumented workers that died in a boxcar in Sierra Blanca, Texas. The door was locked on them, and they suffocated in there in extreme heat. One man survived, and they found a diary from an individual named Rosario Caldera Salazar. And in the article that I read, some of his lines from his journal were translated into the article. And so I wanted to write a song about it, actually, right away. And I took a couple starts at it, but I wasn't in the right place to be able to do it. You can do more harm when you're writing about an issue. You can do more harm than good if you don't write about it in the proper way.
Right.
If you trivialize it in some way, you can do that inadvertently if you're too close to, I think, to an event. And so it took me a little time, and I think it was probably about 20 years of time before I actually wrote the song. So it's called Sierra Blanca Massacre. Fleeing my country for a better life, I didn't even say goodbye to my friends, not to my grandparents, nor to my parents. Rosario Caldera Salazar said. Alone I cried, there was no witness, only God knew my sorrow and shame. And I didn't leave you one single cent, and alone I left my country in pain. These are some words from the victims found inside a boxcar in a small Texas town, locked from the outside in spite of their pleas. Inside was 130 degrees. Landed in Texas, Westlake and Houston, Dallas and San Antonio. But they all fit here inside of this heart, even though her borders are so far apart. Que bonito, los Estados Unidos, Illinois, California, and Tennessee. But over on the other side of the border, a piece of the sky still belongs to me. These are some words from the victims found inside a boxcar in a small Texas town, locked from the outside in spite of their pleas. Inside was 130 degrees. I didn't even say goodbye to the boys or drink to my friends like we used to do. And now I'm out here way over the line. Your friend, the illegal, still misses you. Goodbye to El Paso, goodbye to Laredo. When I crossed that big river on the root of a tree, I never knew how soon I'd be yearning for the land that I love and my family. These are some words from the victims found inside a boxcar in a small Texas town. Locked from the outside in spite of their pleas. Inside was 130 degrees.
Wow, very touching. Very touching song. Joel Rafael. Rose Avenue is the name of the new album. It's album number 10. If people want to get a copy, it's available on Amazon and iTunes. And your website as
Pretty
well?
much everywhere. And my website, which is just my name.
JoelRafael.com.
Yeah, spelled with an F, as in folk music.
And you on Facebook and Instagram? All that
Facebook,
stuff?
Instagram, Spotify, all of those.
All of that. And the tour continues through the end of the summer.
Pretty much,
August.
yeah. I've got a few festivals I'll be playing this summer. I'll be out to New York and into Oklahoma and then up to Alaska and
Wow.
hopefully back home alive.
Well, thank you for coming in and joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be on your show and to be featured on this network.
Well, great. Thank you so much for all your great music.
Thank you.
Keep it going. Joel Rafael is our guest. Rose Avenue is the name of the album. My name is Larry London, and this is Border Crossings.